Well, maybe walk through what are some of the little things that people can do now, especially like creatives and artists that are going to be listening to this, that they can
Yeah.
implement on their website that aren't reinventing the wheel, but that might
Yeah.
make a big difference on their site.
Yeah. So I think obviously like adding metadata, if you don't know what that is, that's the things, if you search on Google and your those listings that come up. So the top thing is like the meta title or the SEO title. So whatever pulls into that information, you can actually set that in all these different website platforms. There's, I know they're all slightly different, but they all have a way for you to set the metadata for each, either listing or page. And listings can be, we'll talk about that in a second because I have thoughts on that. But yeah, you can definitely add context to that, add keywords to that. And I always recommend don't just guess at a keyword, but actually do the research. So I had an example. I was like looking because I was like, I know we're going to be talking about this. Let's say you're like a landscape painter and you're like, okay, landscape painting is my keyword. Okay, well, if you actually do the research on that, landscape painting gets over 33,000 hits a month, which might be like, oh, wow, so many people are searching for this. But like the chances of, like little old me by myself coming up on page one for that are pretty slim. But if you scroll down in the research, it shows what was it, landscape paintings with acrylics. We only had 3,600 searches a month. So it's like not as many people are searching for, but it's more specific and you're more likely to rank for that. And so using those smaller keywords, is going to give you a lot higher chance of actually ranking. So doing the keyword research, I always suggest people do that. And I think a lot of people get hung up. They're like, oh, I'm just going to say like, be like me being like Denver website design. Like how many potential, Denver website designers could there be? So just getting kind of more specific, I think, with your keywords, figuring those out, using them in the metadata and then also within the page copy. And one thing I feel like I see people, whether it's artists, creatives, I work with a lot of health and wellness entrepreneurs too. People just don't have enough copy on their site. And if there's not enough copy for Google to come through and crawl and figure out what your site is about, it's not going to show your website anything because there's no context for it to be like, oh, this is an artist. So if you have a web page with, beautiful photos of your art, but no copy, you're not going to rank. So it's just like kind of like plain and simple, maybe a little harsh, but you got to have some copy on there and then using headers within your copy as well. And headers are basically like a lot of website platforms. You just essentially like highlight the copy and like click, I want this to be a header. You add those, and that kind of again gives more context to Google and is like, okay, this header one, this means this is the most important thing on the website. So it just kind of is like helping Google feed the right content to the people that you want to see it.
Right. What do you recommend artists do on their sites? Because I know you rank per page. It's not like your whole website ranks. So
Correct.
it's not like you have
Yes.
to flood your homepage, let's say, with like paragraphs and paragraphs of text. How do you
Right.
recommend someone that's like selling artwork get content on their website without feeling like I just have to write paragraphs on every page?
Yeah. Typically, each page needs about 500 words to potentially rank. So if there's less than that, it can be a little tricky. Obviously, I know that's hard when you're like, oh, I have a product page. How much, copy do I really want to put on here? Not that much. So that's when blog posts really become the main driver of traffic because most blog posts are going to be at least 500 words. I even recommend typically like 800 as a minimum because the longer the post, the more like in depth it's going to be, the more you're going to rank. But again, I think just focusing on like one keyword per page is really a smart way to start. And you can add things to the footer. I know a lot of times on pages you'll see like, let's say you have a product page of, my latest works or whatever, and then you have all your things at the bottom. People will have a paragraph or two. So it's on the page, but it's a little bit more hidden. It's not just all this copy at the top. So it's kind of like a tricky way to like have the content there, but get around the visual ugliness of having like massive blocks of text. And then if you have like a homepage where there's different sections, you can obviously break up copy with, bullet points, headers, just different sections of stuff. So, as a web designer, that's what I'm trying to do is make things look as nice as possible, but also still work. So
Right.
that's always nice. Yeah.